I'll tell you how I got to this point about this particular live. It was a small thing, but I had misplaced a check. And I had a memory of where it was and what I had done with it, where I put it, up until the point where I went to that spot and it wasn't there. And I manifested this check. And I had so many takeaways from it, right? One, I had to realize that it had nothing to do with my beliefs. Like all the things that I believe were true, I was faced with the fact that those were not true. And I was like, wow, this is actually wonderful. I sat with it and I thought, oh, I'm going to do this for the live, right? I can talk about this manifestation and how it blew through my beliefs and what occurred with it. And then I sat there and I thought, but I don't know if I'm good at manifestation yet. I pulled off this one, I got it going. And of course, we manifest and stuff in our lives all the time. But this one I had a focus on, I had a path on, and, I could share it. But then I got nervous because I thought, my life doesn't look like the world's most fabulous manifester. I was thinking, and I've got different things that I'm doing and I want them to launch even better and they're not there yet. And so then I got to thinking, okay, well, when can someone talk about manifestation, right? When could they talk about it? When would they have it all figured out and could do it over and over again and just prove it? And in that moment, I began to realize that I was stepping away from the manifestation and worried about what other people would think. You have to be a certain level of good at it, right? For folks to listen to you, you got to be able to prove that. And so then I started shutting down and thinking, well, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I shouldn't do this one because I'm not yet this masterful manifester, at least not to my mind. Here I had manifested, and already my mind was fighting me on it. And in that moment, as I sat with that, all of a sudden, there was a woman at my shoulder, and I looked at her, and she was biting this apple. And I knew in that moment it was Eve. And Eve said, girl, you just gotta go for life. Whether you get it right or wrong, whether you're perfect at it or not, is not the point. It's to live it. It's to choose. It's to be embodied, to go for it, to not hide, to not be explained away, to step away from hiding and explanations and be happy and jump into the unknown. Now, these are all the things that we're not supposed to do because this one is the fall of mankind. And there she was beside me, just chomping on that apple and saying, go for it. And in that moment, I realized Eve was right all along. She chose the unknown. She chose to live. She chose not to hide. She chose the unexplainable and not to explain herself. She chose the power that she is. So that made me take some time and look at that story and change this very live, which was going to be about one thing, and shift into another. So let's shift into it together because we're going to just start breathing together at your own pace. So I picked this one to be on a day, December 13th, because 13. And at 9:09, because 9 is endings. So I tried to make this as totally scary as possible. And I'm just going to check the chat. Let's see what Karma says. I had an experience today where I was scolded and I felt humiliated and embarrassed and absolutely wanted to hide. Yes. Then I realized humiliation is a great teacher and tuner for the ego, so I'm okay now, kind of. I understand that, Karma. It still sucks. Like when I've have those experiences myself, it's not like they don't aren't uncomfortable or don't suck, because they do. And yet I love me, and I'm gonna keep loving me. And see, that's one of the blessed assurances that Eve had. She was gonna love herself, no matter what. And what's beyond you if you love yourself, no matter what? What's not for you if you can love yourself, no matter what? So let's breathe in together and let's snuggle up to Eve and check out her story that we all know so very well, yet none of us were there, but we know it. Okay. Michelle tells us our song. One of those was this drag queen that sings about Eve and it says, "Screw the system. I'm chasing after wisdom." And she didn't even have to chase, did she? So let's breathe together and finding an easy pattern of breath. Breathing in at your pace and breathing out at your pace. See, it's your perfect pace, the natural one that you have. And this pace begins to bring forward the awareness of alignment in your body. This relaxed breathing pace. And you focus on the breath in through the nose. And you feel it go up into the bridge of your nose, into your sinuses, and then down your throat, into your lungs. And this breath doesn't question your right to exist. It does not judge you or ask one thing of you before it merges intimately with your body. And we're so afraid of rejection. Even the story of Eve plays into rejection, doesn't it? To be rejected by God. That's a scary one, isn't it? Or is it? When the very life on this planet was designed to immediately merge with your body for your sustenance, for your life, that you're not judged in any way, but are immediately merged with. And yet we're afraid of rejection. And life has already fully bonded, mated, joined you. And it was always going to happen. You were never going to be rejected. So Eve was beside me. as I was concerned that maybe I wasn't good enough at this particular thing to share it yet. Because to share it, I must be perfect at it. At least that's what we believe, that perfection. And yet she existed in perfection. Here, the perfect man and the perfect woman walk the planet together. They didn't struggle for anything. Everything was kind and gentle. They weren't the prey of animals. Or so we believe that about the Garden of Eden. It was this place of peace and perfection. Oh my God, don't we long for that? Where there is no fear, and the perfect man and the perfect woman walk beside each other. I do find it interesting that the perfect man and the perfect woman in the perfect place still somehow couldn't pull off a perfect relationship. I mean, Eve ate the apple. Wasn't very dominated, was she? And this is the perfect man and the perfect woman in the perfect place. And they couldn't even get that right, right? But let's go back to that perfection. Let's breathe in again together, noticing that breath that can't wait to merge with you. That can't wait to blend with you. That has no concept of rejecting you. That its sole purpose in greeting you is to merge. To remind you that you cannot be rejected because you are life. You cannot be rejected because you are life. So Eve, in this planet of perfection, she had no fear because nothing preyed on her. The animals didn't fight. It's a perfect place. And from this space of no fear, she spoke with God every day. She wasn't afraid of God. They'd meet in the garden and interact. They'd walk together and talk with each other. And there was a tree there called the tree of knowledge. At least that's what we're told. Because we were never there, were we? Were we there? And so this tree of knowledge grew in the garden among many other trees. And this one tree, we're told, had a warning label. Don't eat from this tree. If you do, you'll surely die. That's what we're told. And when first I began to look at this story, I was questioned, hey, when this first story was first told, was it ever told differently? Did it have a different perspective? And it turns out that there was a time frame where the story changed. Originally, it was interpreted differently. But this guy by the name of Augustine, he believed that people were terrible. They were sinners. They needed to be scared and afraid. They needed to dig for their redemption. And he had a mistress. You can look this up if you want to. And he even wrote a book while he was with this mistress. While he was living with her, he wrote this book because he wanted to become a priest. But then, if he was going to be a priest, he'd have to give up, the hanky panky and become chaste. And he had a book that he was writing, and it was called Confessions, I believe. And in it, he prayed that he would be delivered from this desire to be with this woman, this mistress that he had. But he literally said, Dear Lord, take this from me, but not yet. And we're going to base the rest of our lives off of what this person's interpretation was. Or are we? Because, this isn't a problem for some people. But I know how scary this can be for someone who was raised in the church. To question, to eat of that apple. When Eve was responsible for the fall of mankind. Was she? Have you ever taken the time to talk to God yourself about it? Or are you going to listen to a tortured man's self-rejection who prayed that something would be taken from him, but not yet? But let's take it from you right now. And let's blame a gender for the downfall of humanity. And don't believe me. Ask for yourself. Because you're the captain of your life. Ask for yourself. And learn the difference between trusting in something and trust. Trust is its own energy. And it doesn't have an issue with you believing it or not. Because truth is truth, regardless of whether you believe it. And trust is an energy that you hold. So let's go back to Eve and breathing. So again, life is saying, I love you so much. And it's natural for me to want to merge with you and support you and love you because you are life and I am life. And that's what life does. And this breath is with you every step of the way. From your first inhale to your last exhale when you merge with breath itself. So this constant companion never leaves you. And know it loves you. And it doesn't reject you. Whether you're good or you're bad, you're breathing. It's working for everybody, regardless of their choices. Interesting. So here we are with Eve in the garden. And she walks with God every day. She talks to God every day. She knows him. She doesn't run from him. She's glad to hear when he joins her. And when he joins her, does he greet her like the breeze? Or does she smell the honeysuckle and know that it is God? How does he speak with her? Is it through clunky language? Or does she feel him? Does he feel like the breath she breathes in? Merged and intimate? Does she hear him like the voice in her own head? Or does she even have language? Does she function like that yet? Or is everything just a feeling, a sensation? And so as she moves in this garden, in the perfection of consciousness that she is, does she speak at all? Or does she touch the limb of a tree and become the tree? Because she knows she is that tree. Does she look at every tree and recognize her oneness with it? Or does she just feel one with it? As she steps on the ground and traces her fingers across a tiger's ear, does she know where she ends and the tiger begins? And then the breeze comes and she feels God. She breathes in God so deeply. She takes this beautiful inhale and God is in her lung. And a smile comes on her face because she feels the oneness and the intimacy. She feels love. She is love. And maybe she questions nothing because she's in this pure state of being, recognizing herself. Maybe she doesn't yet. Maybe she's just existing, feeling, noticing. God is her. She is God. God's just as excited to see her in the garden as she is to see God. And there's Adam. Does she see herself separate from him? Or is he an extension of her own being? Just awareness. And every tree in the garden is of her and is her. And every animal, and every aspect of life, and every flower. And she just moves and is. She doesn't question how she is or where she is or what she is. She is. And this presence that joins her, that is her, that is Adam, that is God, that is life. She moves in it. And every tree she recognizes as an aspect of herself. But she doesn't do it from, oh, that's a tree there, and that tree grows this fruit. It's just existing. This tree, this fruit, this life. There's no fear within her. And when God merges with her, so is there a conversation that lands on the ears? Or is it excitement in her heart? Is it a deeper calm? We don't know. There she is, moving, existing, being unafraid. And then she comes to this tree in the garden and she smells the fruit of it. And it's from the tree of knowledge that's later called the knowledge of good and evil. Because, we have to define it, say what it was, even though we weren't there. Or were we there? Were we there? But according to some, it's the knowledge of good and evil. But to her, it was a scent, a fragrance. And she felt it in her body. And she could take a bite of it, but she didn't need to, because she was so one with that apple. She could feel the texture of it already. Her mouth began to salivate from the smell, because that's what naturally would happen as she smelled it. And her tummy wanted it, wanted to taste it. And her body responded to the scent and the texture. She closed her eyes and she became the apple. Because there was no separation. And she felt a desire to taste it. And we call that a temptation nowadays. But for her, it was a pure sensation based off the smell, the salivation, the feeling within her. And everything around her was pleasing. Pleasing to her, pleasing to God, pleasing, comfortable. Nothing was unknown. She had no fear. So what would be so wrong with her tasting the apple? Was there anything wrong with her tasting it? And so she desired it. And being the powerful, fearless, divine feminine energy that she was, nothing was separate from her. She didn't have to taste the apple to taste it. She was the apple. She didn't have to taste God. She was God. And she was Adam. She was everything. And consciousness is so blended with itself. And stillness is not separate from her. nor you. There was an intuition that she had. Perhaps it was the voice of God, the knowing of God. And the intuition came as this desire for this apple. There's something about this apple. She felt it, but she didn't know what it was. But it called to her intuition, the voice of God for her. See, the voice of God for you might be different than the voice of God for me. But in her purest state, her intuition spoke, and it moved like desire. In a woman that functions on her desire and intuition, and that's a very scary thing. A woman like that wouldn't wait to be empowered. A woman like that is powerful. A woman like that could be the downfall of man. A woman like that must be controlled. A woman like that could get a man thinking he could be that way. A woman like that would raise strong sons and strong daughters, wise and fearless, aware. That'd be quite uncontrollable, wouldn't it? For those who love control. Good way to stop it is to scare people of their intuition, their desire, those temptations. And there she was, already every tree in the garden. There she was, in constant communication with God through her intuition, through her awareness. And there was this apple on this tree. And everything inside of her wanted to taste it. This unknown, this apple that changed everything. If she bit it, it would change her life moving forward. She didn't know how it was going to change things, but she wasn't afraid. She had no fear. There was nothing to fear. So she smelled it again. She felt delight at the concept of choice. Because that's what she smelled in that apple. Concept of choice. Self-direction. Self-recognition. Individuation. Embodiment. The next phase for consciousness to recognize itself and to love itself to play between being an individual and being one. And nothing in that garden could harm her because she was everything it was. The feminine aspect of all that was. And Adam, the masculine aspect of all that was. But at the same time, each containing divine feminine and divine masculine at the same time. And she didn't ever think any of that because she didn't think. She expressed. She moved. She breathed. She was. She is. And she was unafraid. And she knew something about this apple was going to change everything. But it involved her making a choice for the unknown. And she checked with herself as the brilliance of the consciousness that she was and is. And her intuition was unafraid. And her temptation was not tainted because she had no ulterior motives. They weren't invented yet. And her intuition and desire said, taste the apple. And she bit it, and it was delicious. Mm. And she didn't regret the choice to taste life. And God recognized her choice. And it was always her choice. So you don't get to choose something that isn't your choice. And every choice you make is yours to make. And God recognized the choice that she made was a choice of God's. Because gods are not afraid of the unknown. Gods are not afraid of themselves. And as she enjoyed that apple, having fulfilled her intuition and her desire, that others reframed as temptation, when she was so pure and unafraid of the unknown, when others afraid to make that same level of choice made her a villain because they couldn't seem to be responsible for their own choices. They vilified her. And yet, God, after having watched her enjoy the apple, looked down in God's own hands, and there was an apple there, which was already bitten, because only gods are unafraid of the unknown. And it was a choice worthy of an adventurer, someone who trusted themselves, someone who trusted, because she walked with God every day and wasn't afraid to make that choice. How many days had she walked with him or with God, which is beyond a he or a she? How many days had she walked in the garden and talked and understood and loved and knew and recognized her own space, her own uniqueness? And now, by having taken a bite of that apple, her intuition said, this is the thing to do. She launched a new aspect of consciousness. Because in that moment, she chose full embodiment. She recognized herself as not just the one, but as an individual, capable of choice, capable of facing the unknown, living life in the face of everybody, not hiding and not explaining, empowered and recognizing the individuality, something previously she may not have known. And now, to recognize yourself as an individual aspect of the one God, to moving out and away and back. So now we play with our minds. This whole new field and arena of expansion. To have a mind that can individuate and return to the one, that can have personal desires and intuition and a path of your own and return to the one. And for all that is one, to be able to recognize itself. Because it's a pleasure for all that is to see itself in a mirror. To be able to be one and express in a billion ways. And in fact, billions and billions of ways. But one must be brave enough to trust their own intuition and awareness, to choose themselves and to trust not in something, but as trust. There's so much we don't know, and that's okay. We won't. But at no point are you separate. And in fact, had this woman, this divine feminine energy that we all are, whether we're male or female, we're all Eve and we're all Adam. And if this divine feminine had cast us all into separation, the fall of man, then why in the world would so many years later God show up on woman's doorstep again and say, it's time for a new consciousness to be born on this planet, Mary? Could you be the mother of Jesus? Because he's going to change the world with his way of being. Consciousness is going to evolve through that which is called Christ consciousness. And I'm going to put that in your hands and in your womb to give birth to raise this one who will elevate consciousness. Now, if you're going to do that, might you want to trust the woman you're going to ask to do that? And would you if she already calls the fall of mankind? Or would you return to Eve, who was so brave and so wise to know that she was the apple that she was biting? If you were going to expand consciousness again. Well, if she expanded it the first time, then maybe you'd come back around and say, let's do it again. I need someone brave. I need someone who isn't going to worry about what the world says about them. And I need someone who can trust their intuition to bring about this next level of consciousness. And if Eve had screwed that up, I don't know that you'd come and say, let's try it again. Or would you just lean into who you knew could handle it? The expansion of consciousness to be able to see itself, to be embodied, and to take on dealing with the mind. Thank you, Eve, for trusting your intuition, because you literally would not have functioned in any other way. And you did it from a place of peace and no fear. And you didn't hide. You didn't explain yourself. And nowadays is such an important time. In the midst of this confusing world, to make a choice follow your own intuition, to be not afraid, to not fear the unknown, and to live and choose to live and be and choose happiness and following that in a time where the world wants to tell you, be afraid, wants to control you, wants to tell you to be afraid of the unknown, to obey, to listen, to follow the rule. But who are those rules for? Who's got the winning game? And were you made for more than that? So choose. Feel your desire. Feel your intuition. Follow it. Be unafraid. Be uncontrolled. Being controlled isn't for your benefit, is it? And know that it's a powerful thing to choose and to make a choice. Win or fail, you chose it. You lived. You showed up. You embodied. You faced a mind that's all over the place sometimes. And you chose you, and you chose intuition, and you chose without fear. And that is love. Eat the apple. Eve had it right all along. The interpretation was all for control. Be uncontrollable and be happy. Whether you get it right or you get it wrong, you lived. And that's the point.